Another fall camp in the books here at the University of South Dakota, and the Coyotes are moving on to Montana, getting set to open the season this Saturday against the Grizzlies here inside the Dakota Dome, which of course is currently under renovation on the west side. But for now, Bob Nielson joining me now, head coach of the Coyotes. And Bob, let's focus on your team, and particularly the offense. As a whole, were you pleased with what you saw out of that group over the past few weeks?
Well, we got better and better throughout camp, and that's what you want camp to be, is every day a little bit better, cleaning up things from the day before and moving ahead. We've got our entire offensive system in. I think we've been able to identify those things that we can do well and those things that maybe will become less of an emphasis for us this year. Certainly the return of Austin Simmons as the quarterback and the experience that he gained last year showed up, playing at a really high level, not just operating in our offense now, he's really leading our offense, which you need that position to do.
Yeah, as you well know, if you've got a good quarterback, you're in a great spot. As a football coach, as a football team, Austin Simmons has always been a talented guy, especially in terms of the way he throws the football. Last year, maybe some decision-making at time, which you would expect for a first-year starter, but overall, where are some of the biggest improvements that you've seen out of him coming into this fall?
Well, exactly what you said, decision-making. He's last year, early in the year, I think there were times when he struggled a little bit in decision-making, didn't make those decisions quite as quickly as we needed him to operate. This year, there's a change in his confidence level, a change in his decision-making level, and we're going to need to make that one of the strengths of our offense here come right away against Montana.
You're gonna always helps to have a good group of options to throw the ball to. You guys love to spread it around. That's always been the case. But this particular wide receiver group maybe is deep. Is this one of the deeper that you've had the chance to work with in your tenure as a head coach, not only here but everywhere?
I think it's probably the deepest. We've got 7-8 guys that are capable of playing at a high level in the Missouri Valley Conference. It's going to be hard to have enough footballs. And you'll see two waves of guys. You look at the guys that with the most returning experience, like a Dakari Allen, Levi Falk. Nice to have Cody Case back, who missed the majority of last year. Some of the things that he brings to that group are different with his skill set. But you keep going down from there, the Caleb Van Der Esch's, the Tristan Duckers, the Randy Bakers. We can keep throwing a lot of guys out there with fresh legs, which with our tempo system can be an advantage.
That's funny. You list those guys off and you're like, oh yeah, that guy can play. Oh, he can play. That's a great problem to have, right? Well, it extends into your tight end group because there's a lot of really talented pass catchers in there that just increase the depth of that passing attack.
Yeah, Brett Sampson, who's been a little bit limited in camp with a muscle problem, but he's been back now here this last week, a really explosive player, a guy that's a dangerous player on the perimeter. And then you add to him Connor Herman, Austin Goring, who's his nickname Horse because of his physical abilities. All three of those guys give us a great deal of flexibility in terms of personnel packages, but are really dangerous people on the perimeter.
Switch over to the running attack now, and you guys did struggle to run the football. I don't think there's any secret about that last year. This group coming in, a lot of the same faces, but they don't look the same. And you've added some pieces to that group where all of a sudden this looks like a much more dynamic position for the Coyotes.
Yeah, that running back group from a off-season standpoint, I think has changed the most physically. You've got Kai Henry, who had a good year in the weight room, who's a more physical back than he was a year ago. A guy that's played a lot, a guy that our fans have seen that can be a complete player. Keenan Brooks, who played as a true freshman, doesn't look like a true freshman anymore. He's bigger, stronger. Add to that, Ben Klatt, who showed at times his ability to be a physical, hard running back. We've got three experienced guys there But there's also some additional depth at that position. So you might see some formations where you see two of those guys on the field at the same time, and some formational looks where they're both in the backfield, or where one's out in the slot and one's in the backfield.
Of course, it doesn't matter how good the talent is on the ground or through the air. You got to block up front, and I think that obviously was one of the biggest question marks coming into this season. I'm not so sure you probably ever figured you would be so closely associated with Hippos, but that's a thing now. Offensive line, though, as a whole, no question, at least from what I've seen, it's a deeper and much more talented group as a whole than it was 12 months ago.
Yeah, we've got a lot more depth. Still a very young position group, the youngest position group on our football team. When you consider the fact that we really only have one guy returning that has a significant number of starts, and that's Mason Scheidegger, who is capable of being as good offensive lineman as we have in the Missouri Valley Conference, and we need him to really play at a high level and be a leader in that group. Other than that, you got a handful of starts in Braden Schneider, a handful of starts in Austin Wallace, a couple of starts in Mike Bianchi, who's the only senior in that entire 17-member position group, which shows you how young of a group that is. And then some very talented redshirt freshmen and sophomores, and that are going to be, their really first significant playing time this year. Guys like Isaac Urbis, Kean Rexroth Potts, that are going to look the part. They're both 6'6" and well over 300 pounds, but it'll be a little bit of learning on the job for those guys, and that's a position group where playing together is really important, and I'm excited about how that group's going to improve as the year goes on. The other guy that had a tremendous camp is Alex Jensen, a redshirt sophomore, who we switched over from tight end in the spring. He's the smallest of that group because he still only weighs 260 some pounds, but has great feet, great athleticism, and is a guy you're going to see a lot on the field at 6'7" and 260 pounds.
All right, well, it's going to be, I think, another exciting year for the Coyote offense. You guys have not had a real big issue scoring points or putting up yards, and if it all comes together, it could be a pretty special group, I think, when all is said and done.
Well, we need to be more consistent. I think that's the thing we walked away from last year, and we moved the ball very well at times, but there were times in games in which we didn't, and those are the things that we have to improve upon. We've got to be a team that can consistently move the football against whoever we're playing, consistently move the football throughout games to take some of the pressure off our defense.
All right, Bob Nielson breaking down the Coyote offense for 2019.